I know what you're going to say, Seahawks fans. I know what you're going to say. But Geno Smith got hurt. He went out. It was 20-3. Okay? It was 20-3 when he went out. They weren't winning with Geno Smith any more than they were going to with Sam Howell. Also, for any of you Seahawks fans that still think that was a cheap shot and a low hit to the knee and it should have been a penalty, his feet were both in the air, so that means it can't be called for a low hit. At least one foot has to be be on the ground, but it wasn't. But the Packers win. They defeathered the Sea Chickens, and now the Seahawks are out of the playoffs, and the Packers are basically one win away from locking up a spot. Let me know what you think down below, and let's get to it. The Packers had kind of an uneven win, but also a pretty complete win. If you toss out the end or like beginning of the fourth to the middle of the fourth, the Packers were dominating. I mean, they gave up that one touchdown to Zach Charbonnet, but other than that, there's really not much to say. That one touchdown to Charbonnet came off of a turnover, but other than that, the Packers were pretty darn solid, especially to start out the game. Just running the ball down the Seahawks' throat. J.S. Jacobs could not be stopped. Certainly he got stopped in the second half, but the Packers were going all out. I don't know what it is about Jordan Love, but he looks really good. I don't know why Matt LaFleur doesn't trust him at times to make plays because, again, this is the fourth straight game without an interception. It's like I think he's earned the degree to throw it more. Though sometimes watching him throw outside the pocket is just really really frustrating. I mean, Romeo Dobbs was wide open and he just missed him. Also, Jaden Reed, he had an open route, but then he fell down. That was terrible. But there's really not much bad things to say about the Packers, other than they could have made some better play calls. The defense could have been better at times, but you can't really complain about the defense all that much. 7 sacks, 2 interceptions. They ate that offensive line alive tonight, and I remember a certain someone in my comment section that said it was crazy that the Packers would get to 30 points in Seattle. Well, look what happened. Yes, they didn't get to 34, but they were pretty darn close. If not for the Packers' game flow, the Packers easily should have put up 48 points tonight. They were that good. If not for the couple of bad play calls, and just, kind of with the Packers let their foot off the gas a little bit in the beginning of the fourth, the Packers very well could have scored 48. I mean, they really were that good, and the Seahawks defense just could not stop anything. Part of the problem for the Seahawks tonight was the penalties. I mean, going into the fourth, they had 5 penalties for 108 yards. Yikes. You're not going to beat anybody getting that many penalties. And I know some fans will say, like, oh, that wasn't PI. It was like Tariq Woolen got burned several times tonight. And as a result, he had to hold, he had to interfere to stop a touchdown. And sure enough, look what happened. Packers were great tonight. Josh Jacobs had a great first half. Yeah, I think he didn't make it to 100 yards in the end. Jordan Love had a great pass to Romeo Dobbs for the final touchdown of the game. That was just absolutely phenomenal. Again, sometimes with Jordan Love, he makes bad plays, but every and now and then he makes another play that just restores your complete faith in him. And the Packers aren't going to be giving up on him anytime soon. He's our quarterback for the year, so you might as well just get used to him, ride or die with him. And he's been pretty darn good the last couple weeks. He hasn't thrown any interceptions. His touchdown interception ratio is now 22-10, I believe. So he's been pretty good. I mean, other than a few plays here and there where just I don't even know how to describe it, he just doesn't look good. The Jordan Love has played well. He's playing well as we get closer to the end of the season, and that's the right time where you want to see your quarterback playing his best at the end of the year. Talk about the Seahawks a little bit. Geno Smith just wasn't accurate tonight. He had no time to throw. The Packers defense were getting sacks without blitzing, and that's a bad thing. They barely blitzed tonight, and they were still getting across. That so-called great offensive line that a couple of people told me this week was really good. They're finally coming around. And it's like, well, when you play good competition, you don't look so good. And that's been the problem with the Seahawks. The first 3 games, the opponents they played now have a record of like less than 10 wins and over 25 losses. Then they had that 0-4 stretch where they played basically all playoff teams. And then the last couple games, they played some somewhat middle of the road competition. They played the Cardinals twice, but let's be honest, the Cardinals are probably still a year away from when they can truly be considered playoff contenders. They just got a little bit of an upstart this year, but as soon as the Seahawks play somebody good at home, they get killed, and they did tonight, just like the Bills dominated them a couple months ago. The Packers come into Seattle, just come out, just run their offense. No quit, no hinky here and there. Well, a couple spots here and there that could have been better, but the Packers played a pretty complete game. All things considered, definitely could have been better. That fumble by Josh Jacobs certainly was a boner, but yeah, Packers played a pretty complete game tonight. And now they're basically 1 win away from making the playoffs, and better yet, they play on Monday night next week against the Saints. So that should be a win, and there should be all she wrote. The Packers should be in the playoffs. They're looking great, 10-4, nothing to sneeze at. Sure, they've lost to some really good teams, like the highest combined opponent percentage in their losses in a team like in a very long time. Still, the Packers receivers leave a bit to be desired. Romeo Doubs right now has been probably the most consistent. Christian Watson had an absolutely fantastic play tonight. Then a couple plays where he just dropped balls again. So, I mean, you hope with Christian Watson that he catches more than he drops. And sometimes it's just not the case. He makes a couple fantastic plays, and then he's going to drop a couple plays. It's just the way of his game. He's never going to be the consistent player you really want him to be, especially considering he's a second-round player. But you hope for the best. Tucker Kraft still pretty reliable out there. Jaden Reed can get some moments here and there. Had a couple of nice end arounds and pitches in the game, but like I said, he had that one throw where he was going to be wide open, but he just tripped over himself like that. He seemingly can't get open all the time. Droptavian Wicks has had a catch tonight, but other than that, he was basically incognito for most of the night. Like I said in my preview video, Musgrave should be returning soon. Jair Alexander probably could have played tonight, but according to Matt LaFleur, his speed is just not there. And against a team like the Seahawks, where with a couple good wide receivers that can really stretch the field, that's not something you want. They kind of got killed by JSN tonight, but they didn't give him up any touchdowns to him. They had that one long touchdown run to Zach Charbonnet. But other than that, they were able to keep Zach Charbonnet under wraps for the most part. He had a couple of runs here and there, but other than that one big touchdown run, not much to speak of. The offense just couldn't get anything going for the Seahawks. The offense just couldn't really do much, especially after Geno Smith went out. I mean, Sam Howell, boy, he really couldn't handle the pressure tonight. I think he got sacked like 3 times tonight. Yeah, I mean, he looked like a lost cause out there. And if Geno Smith is not healthy, ready to go next week against the Vikings will absolutely whoop the hell out of the Seahawks. It won't be close. It will be really ugly. But Geno Smith is a gamer. He'll be out there. I mean, just the way he walked out the field tonight is like his knee, he's totally in pain. And then he came running out and he was still limping. He probably tried to give it a go, and it's just like he knew it's just not gonna be back tonight. Then they wrapped up his knee, put a warmer on it just to keep the knee good at everything. But yeah, especially once Geno Smith went out, I mean, the game was over. I mean, I'm sure there were some Seahawks fans out there that felt like, oh, maybe, just maybe, Sam Howell can make a big throw, he can get a penalty or something, and that's how they're going to score. But it's just like, you can't depend on that. I mean, you just can't depend on that. I mean, Sam Howell was just had all the talent in the world coming out of college, but it's just like he's just not a very accurate quarterback, and he had a really bad interception tonight. Edrin Cooper was great for the defense. He was all over the place. You can tell that the Packers were missing him on the back end. He's a great inside linebacker, and he's going to be a future star for the Packers for years to come. As long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be a star. And pairing him up with others such as Xavier McKinney, Carrington Valentine, and others, their defense could be good for years to come. It just need to be a little bit more consistent, but I think they'll get there for sure. The Packers are doing well right now. They got another win. Sure, they lost to the Lions last week, but again, I remind you Lions fans out there that are watching is that were benefited from a couple of really bad penalties that should not have been called, and a couple of penalties that actually should have been called, but the refs just said, no, you can do whatever you want out there, Lions fans. Lions, you can do whatever you want. No big deal. No big deal. But tonight, the Packers definitely had the better of the Sea Chickens. Sea Chickens were defeathered, and now Seattle is out of the playoffs, and the Rams take over that fourth seed in the NFC and are the division leader currently right now. They will play each other by the end. But again, if Seattle loses next week against Minnesota, which I think is very, very, very likely, they could find it really hard to really make a shot at the playoffs. But Packers win. That's the most important thing. Even though at times it was a little rough, it was one of the most complete games the Packers have had all year. And definitely some things to work on in the future, but Packers are still looking like a playoff team more than not. So let me know what you think down and below. Have a great day, and as always, go Pack Go, and God bless.